This is Andy Lewis, and you're listening to the Norse Mentality. Today, I want to talk to you about how you can create your own reality that is perfect for you and have all the aspects of this reality match up with your goals and aspirations. Now, I know that this sounds like some make-believe fantasy bullshit, but just hang in there with me because this can be extremely powerful for you. All right, so yesterday, I went for a 10-mile hike here in North Carolina. I try to do this every week if possible, but it just depends on my schedule. I've realized that this is what keeps me grounded, and it's the only way that I can actually shut down for a little bit. If I'm at home, I'm a business owner and I'm a dad. Those are my two roles, and it's very difficult for me to turn that off, and I'm sure that you can relate to this. And the reason for this is because we all have mental triggers, and those mental triggers are what activates certain thoughts and actions in our subconscious. For example, your bed is a trigger for sleep, which is why you should only be using your bed for sleeping. And if you do this, it will allow you to fall asleep faster because your brain and body know that when you lay down, it's time for rest. So if you're one of those people that lay in bed watching TV or playing on your phone or what the fuck ever, knock that shit off immediately. Having multiple TVs in your house is absolutely ridiculous anyways. I use mental triggers for everything, and I use them to my advantage. When I sit down to work, I have a whole little system. I put on some sound isolating headphones, I put on a certain song, and I pop in a nicotine pouch. And this is what activates work mode for me. It's actually really hard for me to get any work done at this point if I don't have this little system. And the reason I use a small amount of nicotine is because it's a cognitive enhancer, and it can be used as a neurotropic. Research has shown that nicotine can actually speed up your reaction time, improve working memory, and enhance focus and attention. So that combined with, say, some focus, it's an absolute game changer. Anyways, back to the topic of creating your ideal reality. Yesterday, I was doing a beautiful hike at South Mountain State Park, and I got to the peak of this mountain, and the views were absolutely amazing. There was a huge waterfall in the distance, and the Appalachian Mountains were all around me. And the sun was shining directly above me, and two ravens were circling in the gorge beneath. It was truly fucking magical. Absolutely amazing. And at this point, I had not seen anyone else on the trail, so I sat down to meditate. And I was deep in meditation when all of a sudden, I heard footsteps. I opened my eyes, and there was this guy walking up with his goddamn face pressed up against his phone. He looked at me and he said, "People are going crazy in DC right now. It's insane." I looked back at him and I said, "None of that matters up here." And he seemed confused and then continued on with his little brain dead journey. But that's exactly what I realized on top of that mountain. At that moment, my reality consisted of absolute peace and harmony. The only reason I was even aware of some bullshit going on in Washington, D.C. was because this jerk-off decided to be on his phone while hiking. Otherwise, I would have been completely unaware. And if I'm unaware, it might as well not even exist. When you allow yourself to get caught up in the news and all this other bullshit, you are now living in a manufactured reality created by someone else. But when you ignore that garbage and only focus on the present moment and what you are experiencing in front of you at that specific time, that is your actual reality. And the thoughts and emotions that you project is what shapes that reality as well. You have complete control over this. Now, that doesn't mean that everything is going to be amazing all the time. We all know that life is a cycle of highs and lows, and everything is always changing. But what this does mean is that a shitty situation can be less of a burden to you. If you can control your thoughts and your emotions and try to embody a positive state of being, you are creating paradise in your life. Now, if you decide to find the negative in everything, then you're creating hell for yourself. Once again, you have control over this. This became evident to me during COVID. Now, I already limit my social media use, and I only use it for business, and I never read or watch the news. But people would always want to talk to me about how awful everything was in the world. But I just didn't see it. And the reason for this was because I was detached. I was not caught up in someone else's reality. My life was solid for the most part. I mean, yeah, I was dealing with some personal bullshit like everyone else, but my life was far from being terrible, and it definitely was not in chaos. Even when North Carolina was on a strict lockdown and every business was closed, including my own, my reality was still okay. Everything was closed, so I took advantage of it, and I went hiking and camping multiple times every week. It was awesome. The reason you only hear about terrible things on the news is because it makes you afraid. When you're living in a state of fear and anger, you're vibrating at lower energy levels, and this makes you controllable. It's our natural human instinct to look for a solution or a guide in times of chaos. And that's what these people want. When you're feeling courageous and happy, your energy vibrations are higher, and it's much harder to persuade you. And this is because you are confident. You are confident in yourself and certain that everything will be okay in your life. You don't need someone to tell you what to think or do, because once again, you're confident. So, don't allow these motherfuckers to get inside of your head and control your thoughts and emotions. Those are yours. Keep it that way. It's time for you to live a reality that matches up with what you want out of life. Now, I want you to put everything I just said to the test. Don't just take my word for it. Turn off the news and get off social media for at least a few days, but continue to live your life however you usually would. Then take a few minutes before bed to journal everything down. Write down how you're feeling and do a recap of the entire day. I think you're going to realize very quickly that the world is not burning down around you. Hopefully, this kind of shifts your perspective on things and causes you to start thinking in a different and more beneficial way. As always, I hope you found this episode of the Norse Mentality useful. And if you did find value in it, share it with your friends and family. Thanks for listening, and I'll talk to you soon.